we're still in major short supply.
Yeah.
So we need to have an increase of 80% of inventory to be at a quote unquote balanced market, what we refer to as a balanced market, where buyers and sellers have equal leverage against each other.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. Are you curious about whether mortgage rates and home prices will go down this year? I'm Casey Smith, and today I'm joined with Tom Townsend from Townsend Realty Group. Each week, we bring you practical advice on retirement investing and planning for your financial future. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. So let's get started. Hey, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good.
Good. Thanks for having me on again.
I know. I think...
I was told I'm the number one guest.
I think you are. You'd have to be. We've been doing this at least. This is probably like your fifth time or something. We have to go back and look.
Yeah, it's been
great. It's been a while.
Yes, it has been.
But whenever we have housing questions, I call Tom.
There you go. I appreciate that.
So what's happening? What's happening in your world? Or maybe we should start with 24.
Sure, we can talk a little bit about 24.
See how 24 went. Without looking at any numbers or any data, my sense is that inventory is not moving much because people don't want to take on a 6.25% mortgage.
They're locked in,
and they're probably just improving their home as opposed to moving.
Correct.
They're going to love it instead of listing it.
That's right. Yeah. You said you didn't want to get into the numbers, but 55% of the existing mortgages out there are below 4%.
Oh, wow.
And 25 or about 26% are below 3%. So we call that the locked in effect. So people are locked in to their existing homes because what you said, they're not willing to trade that 3% mortgage for 6.7. So
where are they willing to trade it for?
Well, it depends on their motivation, right? I mean, there are some circumstances that people find themselves in that they have to move, jobs and transfers and family changes that are occurring. So there are reasons, but the motivation's got to be pretty high for them to trade out that low rate for a higher rate.
Are you seeing cash purchases because of this?
Yes. Cash is king, more so than ever. So a lot of the clients that we're working with are either 100% cash buyers or they're putting a tremendous amount of money down on the new home that they're purchasing. So we're seeing a lot of cash purchases or very large down payments.
So mortgage rates came down a little bit over the last year, correct? And through 24?
Well, they've been kind of bouncing around.
Okay.
I checked this morning, they're at 6.7%.
Oh,
that's
wow.
a 30-year fixed.
Okay. With no points or anything like that.
Yeah, that's no points.
Right.
I think last summer they came down a little bit. They were hitting right around that 6.2, if I'm not mistaken. And we did see a little bit of an increase in buyers coming out, coming off the fence and starting to move a little bit, but then they jumped right back up and that kind of cooled down. And then interesting, we haven't figured this piece out, or at least I haven't. December was all of a sudden off the charts high. So one of the best December recordings that we'd had in quite a few years. And I haven't really figured out why that was. Maybe it was the end of the election and people were waiting for something to happen.
More confident. Right.
But all of a sudden they just kind of jumped back in. So December was very strong from a sales standpoint.
What about overall for last year? Were sales up or down versus 23?
We were up here locally.
Real estate's local. Right?
Yeah, it's all local, right? So we're talking about local demand, supply, demand, and everything. We were up about 2.3% of overall sales from 2023.
Okay.
2023 was down from previous years. So we always use like 2022 as a benchmark because that was the height of craziness, if you remember.
Correct.
And
Low interest rates and people moving away from the city.
Post-pandemic, everybody was shifting and moving and finally getting out, and the world had kind of changed, right? So that was the highest number of sales year that we had seen in, I think, ever.
Yeah.
So we always compare to 2022. So compared to 2022, the market last year was down 17 or 18%. So sales volume was way down. However, from 23 to 24, we were up 2.3. So a little bit of an uptick.
Yeah.
Last year.
And what about inventory?
Well, inventory is creeping up, but actually increased. What do I have here? 21%. So we saw a 21% increase in inventory from 23 to 24. However, we are still, everybody's like, oh, sweet. We're still in major short supply.
Yeah.
So we need to have an increase of 80% of inventory to be at a quote unquote balanced market, what we refer to as a balanced market, where buyers and sellers have equal leverage against each other. So we're a long ways from being in a balanced market, but we did see an increase.
Metro Atlanta, has these very wealthy pockets, obviously.
Yeah.
And my litmus test a lot of times is just what I see. So I have this drive up to the airport, which is I have a plane up in Cartersville, and I used to love that drive because it's pretty much after you get off the interstate, you pass Lakewood, the baseball fields, and then after that, it's kind of the country.
Yeah, yeah, it's gorgeous.
Well, I've noticed some of those big fields. I know about crop rotation, obviously, but some of those big fields were not replanted, and the old farmhouse looks very empty.
Yeah.
And then when you take off now and you look down to the right, excuse me, further out, you see big bulldozers.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that new home construction out in these more rural areas, we're buying up land and we're going to start just putting out homes to help solve all this.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's a really far away and there's no industry out there. So those people will be commuting in. We don't have the infrastructure to handle that many more cars on the road.
Well, it's interesting how, exactly. So you can imagine what the municipalities and the counties are going through.
Yeah.
I mean, this is strenuous.
Yeah. They made a 2-lane into a 4-lane. They're doing that now, but still, is that the solution? Is that?
Well, we're in a major housing shortage. We need housing.
Yeah, we need housing.
We need housing. And the urban sprawl is real. Since 2020, more and more people are working out of their homes. Now we're going to have to see, there's some, obviously a lot of corporations are calling their people back.
Right.
So we may see a reverse migration.
People moving back into town.
Yes, it's way too early to determine that, but that is something that we are watching to see exactly how many people have to go back and start commuting again. Right. But for the last 5 years, a lot of people have been working out of their homes. So it allowed them to go out into those rural areas and still be able to work as long as they got internet connection.
So if all the people are coming here, they have to be leaving somewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So somewhere.
Where are they all coming from?
Somewhere has to be really cheap real estate. I just don't know where that somewhere is.
The cheap real estate?
Yeah.
Well, the further away you get from Atlanta, from the city.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
But still, these new homes up in Cartersville are 400 plus. That's a starter home.
Yeah. Welcome to the
real world.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't see a whole lot of new apartment buildings. Maybe I just haven't noticed it.
Yes, there are.
Are there?
A lot of new apartment buildings going in, townhouses, because it's low density.
Correct.
It's more economical, and that's the demand that people are trying to fill. It's that affordability, that housing affordability where the mass of people are at.
Yeah.
Those are, and also think about this, Casey. I mean, you've got like a very fluent area. Let's take Alpharetta, where the average price point's like $850,000.
Right.
That's the median price point. Well, we still have corporations that have service people there that can't afford $850,000. So they're commuting from these other locations. They're commuting an hour to go be a server at a restaurant.
Right.
That's just not sustainable.
Right.
So they've got to have somewhere to go. They have to have some place to live there locally. So apartment complexes. Now, some municipalities are pushing back on that because they don't want that type of housing there.
Right.
But there's a lot of friction that is occurring on the whole north side, the North Atlanta side, that we're seeing in the market because of that. But like when we look at like the East Cobb area, so there's not a lot of land available any longer. It's pretty well developed.
Yeah.
So townhouses are what you're starting to see. All these townhouse complexes starting to be built.
One house taken down, and
I
mean just down the street from the office, there were 2 ranch style homes on probably I'd say 3 acres each.
Yeah.
And those are now $1 million homes about 20 feet from each other.
Okay.
And there's I don't know, the 2 houses went down. I'd probably say 30 houses went in.
Yeah. There you go. No, that's it.
There's just more dense population.
A lot more density.
Not the infrastructure to handle it all.
Well, of course not. And then that's the other issue that comes along with that. But just think about the tax base that just increased on
absolutely.
that 6 acres that you were just talking about.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, you would think we have a friend of the podcast here that has purchased I don't know, there's probably like 15 acres behind his house and built a barn, or is trying to build a barn for his wife's horses, and they're living their best lives, right? And the Cobb County has really stuck it to him. It's been a really hard road because they were supposed to be condos or townhouses, right? And now it's not going to get any revenue. Now it's agriculture.
Yeah. Wow.
And they've given him a really hard time.
Wow.
You think they'd be like, the neighbors love it, obviously.
Sure.
But you would think that the county would have been like, oh yeah, more green space. That's really good. No, lost revenue. This is bad. This is bad.
Exactly right.
Cobb County is not your, the people that run the permits and all that stuff. These are not nice people.
Yeah.
These are very difficult people.
Yeah. And it's county by county. Every county is different, as far as that's concerned. And, but yeah, no, that's it. So
what, I've noticed home values when we do client review meetings aren't changing much. Are you seeing that? You think home prices kind of plateaued where we are right now? You think it's the opposite?
I think it's the opposite. They're still increasing. So
maybe it's just Zillow that's a little off.
Yeah. We use
Zillow or Redfin, right?
Yeah. So people are always, I mean, those are the popular sites. So I understand that. I get that. But no, once again, when you listen to the national news, you get it's so diluted,
right?
When real estate is local.
Sure.
So we're still seeing, I mean, from 23 to 24, if you look at the 13 county metro area, we're up 7.5%.
Oh, wow.
That's from 23 to 24.
Yeah.
And then if you dive further, I know Cherokee County was almost 11% increase.
Yeah.
All right. So there's your double digit again.
Yeah.
Now, this is after years of back to back. Now, 23 was our lowest year.
Growth year.
And it was like 3 or 4%. I can't remember exactly.
You told me a long time ago after COVID, we had this huge increase in home values.
Yes.
But you said if you went back to the financial crisis in 08 and you drew a line to that period of time, so 21, 22, that it was really just an average of a 4% per year.
Yep.
You still see that?
Yes.
Up until today, it's still an average around 4% per year, or is that, you think it'd be increasing?
We just looked at those stats this last week, and we had that exact same graph, and it is right on that 4% line since 2005.
So we're still just catching up.
It is right on it.
We're still catching up.
Yeah, we peaked up a little bit, and then in 2023, which we didn't see that much of an appreciation. It was down to like I said, about 2 or 3%. It came right back down, and we are sitting right on top of that line right now.
So you have people that want to buy rental real estate. It seems to me that's a tough market because the rent that you can gather has a top. You just can't charge unlimited amount of rent at some point.
Yeah. Just like any other market.
People have other choices, right? So,
correct.
So if you're buying a rental in Metro Atlanta now, are you just basically betting that we keep increasing at these high single double digit rates in value to make your money?
It's very speculative. That's the speculative part of investing in real estate.
Normal, I feel like.
Yeah, probably a little more risk now.
Yeah.
So, you can look in the rearview mirror, and anybody that bought real estate 5, 6, 7 years ago, they're loving it because their appreciation has just gone through the roof.
Yeah.
So is it going to continue?
Yeah. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah. Who knows?
I mean, I don't
think there's any catalyst for a real estate crash. I don't think the house, if you're looking at a house right now, I don't think that, I need to wait for home values to come down. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either. We do not.
Especially in Metro Atlanta, there's some people moving here.
Correct. We have so much demand, and like I said, we're so far behind on the supply that we need.
Correct.
There's no quick fix for that.
What about building?
New construction is there, but
it's expensive.
It's expensive. It takes a long time.
It does.
The red tape to actually get approved by these counties and get those developments and the infrastructure that has to be there. There's no quick, you can't add another third shift and all of a sudden produce 3 million houses.
Correct. Up in the Highlands, North Carolina, I've noticed that the really the floor, the minimum cost per square foot for building is now has crept up to $750 a square foot.
Wow.
And there's like 2, 3, maybe 3 builders in town that do these big homes that they build up there.
Yeah.
And obviously these are very high end finishing.
Sure.
These are not, KB and all those other
Yeah.
Pulte. No, that's basic compared to these houses.
Yes.
But the point is that even down here, some of the builders I've known or that I know, they're charging not $750, but they're probably around $450 a square foot for a custom home.
Yeah, it depends on, if you're wrapping land costs into that or just pure cost to build a property or not, it gets a little convoluted. But yeah, I mean, the new construction, you're starting at $450. Yeah. You can go up into Adairsville and some of those northern cities, and you can still find something in the $350 as a starter home. They are starting, you can still find those. And we've actually found those for some buyers, but you're going up into Adairsville.
That's a long commute.
Especially if you're working in Atlanta.
Right.
Wow. Your life is on the road.
Yeah.
But that's where you have to go to get those types of homes.
Interesting.
And that's why up that 75 corridor, you're seeing all of those developments pop up.
Right.
That's exactly what they are. They're affordability. People can afford them. The mass of people can afford in that particular area. But
I'm not really one for mass rail necessarily, but we're starting to make a case for it.
Yes.
If we keep going that far north and the interstate keeps being packed as much. I live 4 miles from my office. So actually it's 3.1.
Yes.
So, and sometimes I'm like, man, that took me 15 minutes to get here today. Dadgummit. I run up here on a Saturday morning. It's 8 minutes. But these people that have to go and sit and all that, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. So it'll be interesting because a lot of people moved out during the pandemic when they could work out of their homes.
Yeah. Lake homes, things like that.
And now let's see how this changes if corporations and companies and governments are actually going to hold these people to coming into the office now.
So it's hard to make predictions. People ask me all the time about the stock market. What's the stock market going to do this year? It's like, I don't know. I mean, don't be a short-term investor, right?
Yep.
But what are your predictions for 2025 in real estate?
I think that there's going to be continued demand. We don't see anything outside of a catastrophe or black swan, if you will. Outside of that occurring, it's going to continue on. The demand is there. People are moving here. So that demand for housing is going to continue, which is only going to increase properties and the demand for properties and for values.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not really predicting, we're not predicting a pullback. That's for sure.
Do you think it's a buyer's market or a seller's market?
Oh, it's definitely a seller's market. It's been a seller's market since 2012.
Are you still getting multiple bids?
In certain pockets and in certain price points.
Yeah.
And property's got to be in good condition. So things have changed a little bit. Once again, I'll use 2022 as the benchmark year where it was crazy.
Yeah.
Where all you had to do was whisper to your neighbor that you were selling your house and you had 5 offers. Right. Those days are gone.
Right.
So a property still has to be in good condition, more so now than we've seen in quite a few years.
Yeah.
So you can't just throw up a trashy house any longer and expect to get multiple offers. But in certain price points, as long as the house is in good condition and priced right, then you can expect multiple offers, but it's not like it was in 2022.
Yeah. Okay. What advice would you have for people looking to buy a home this year?
To buy a house?
Yeah.
I would say that you need to be content to understand that it is still a seller's market. So you're going to be competing, and it really depends on the price point too. The other thing that I would recommend,
maybe the difference between a $500,000 home, which is a starter home now, versus like 1.5.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're seeing, the higher price points is more of a balanced market.
Okay.
All right. So as you start segregating the different price points, you're going to, you're going to have different demand for it.
Yeah.
So what the houses that are priced depending on your area, right? You get into the Buckhead area, and 1.5 is basically the median price home.
Right.
But if you get into the outside the perimeter areas, the 1.5%, I mean, you're more in a balanced market.
Yeah.
So, but you asked the question, if you were a buyer, what will you do? I wrote a couple notes down. The first thing is I would hire an agent that has a hunter's mentality. We are still in short supply, meaning that you need an agent that's going to go out there and find a house and be aggressively looking for you.
Yeah.
Do not rely on just looking at Zillow on your own.
Right.
Again, depending on your price point and what location you're looking at, but I would definitely look at an agent that has that hunter's mentality. Also be aware of the new buyer compensation. We haven't really touched on that, but we've had some changes in the rules about compensation.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So all we've really done
from like a national level, right?
Yeah. This was a national lawsuit. Well, there was a national lawsuit that was filed, and any agent who is a realtor, meaning they are a member of the National Association of Realtors, have to abide by these new rules. I guess the rules or laws.
Yeah.
They will. So they basically took the compensation that we used to negotiate with a seller, and they've decoupled it. So how it used to work in the past was if I was an agent, you were a seller, I would sit down and say, hey, listen, my brokerage charges X% to sell your house. From that X%, I'm going to give a portion of that to whoever brings you a buyer.
Oh, so like 6% commission, 3 goes to you, 3 goes to them.
Yep. Exactly. Thanks for throwing those percentages out. Since you've set that, now I can talk and I can use those numbers.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
But I can't say that.
Got it.
But yes, for your example, I'd go in and say, hey, it's going to cost 6%.
Right.
That's the fee. I'm going to take half of that and I'm going to share it with whatever buyer or whatever agent brings you a buyer.
Right.
Boom. That was how it worked. Now they've decoupled it. So now I'm going to sit down with you and say, you and I are just going to negotiate on my compensation only. So let's say your example, 3%.
Right.
The buyer and the buyer's agent will negotiate their compensation separately. So that's all they've done is they decoupled it. So if you're a buyer going,
so how has this changed conversations?
Well, when I go into a listing appointment, I'm only talking about what it's going to cost you to hire me to sell the house.
Now, is the seller still paying the full?
Depends on the offer. So the other part of that conversation is there's an anticipation that when you receive an offer, most likely the buyer is going to ask you to cover their portion of the compensation. We'll see how that, or as a seller, if you would like for us to market that as an incentive in the marketplace, we can do that as well.
We'll cover buyers. Yeah.
Yep. And we can use that as a marketing.
Okay.
In our marketing, right? That you're willing to be able to provide.
So what is everyone so upset about?
I don't think anybody's upset about it. It's just a little bit of a shift or a change.
Okay.
So here's what's changing for the buyers. This gets back to what to anticipate as a buyer in this new world is now in the past, you'd find a house on Zillow, 123 Main. You'd call up your agent and you'd say, hey, I want to go see the house. Sweet. I'll meet you out there and I'll open it up for you and we'll go through it. Boop. End of discussion.
Right.
No conversation about compensation.
Right.
Now, before I open that door for you, I have to have a conversation about compensation. And I have to have you sign this agreement.
That makes sense. I was looking at houses over in Starkville where my son goes to school. And the lady was really insistent that I sign this piece of paper before we went in and looked at the house.
There you go.
That would explain that.
That's it. So all we do is we really just explain it to buyers.
Yeah.
Unless it's a listing that we are listing ourselves, I can do that without a conversation because I'm representing the seller,
right?
And I'm just marketing the property.
So what happens when you're on both sides of the deal?
Well, that's called dual agency, and you can still do that, but all
you
parties
sign two different documents, basically.
Yeah. You're going to have a buyer agreement for the buyer, and you have a listing agreement for the.
I mean,
for the
it
seller.
Sounds like it's more transparent than maybe in the past.
It is more transparent.
That's
so
good.
I think it's a good thing. It's a change. And anytime you have a change, people get a little wiggy and wigged out.
Yeah.
I think it's great. it added at least one more layer of negotiating, if not 2 layers of negotiating, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
That allows everybody to have that conversation around.
Right.
And from an agent standpoint, I think my value just went up.
Sure.
Because now I've got 1 or 2 other negotiating points that I get to be able to shine and provide value to my clients over.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That's how I look at it. So from a buyer standpoint, understand you're going to be having that conversation. If you're a buyer and you're used to being able to call any random agent up and have them open up a door for you, those days are gone.
Yeah.
You're
going to have your person.
Yes, you're going to have your person. Or we're getting a lot of calls directly now from buyers on our listings. Whereas before they would call up any random agent, now they're calling us directly off of our sign or the advertising that we're doing.
Right.
And they're saying, hey, we want to see your house that you have listed. Can you meet us out there? And I'm like, absolutely.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
There's really no incentive for other people to show that, I don't guess.
Yeah. I mean, if you just want to go look at a house and you're not, you're shopping.
Right.
I just want to go look at a house.
Right.
It's easier just to call the listing agent that's on the sign.
Yeah. But you would sign a document with them? Or no,
I don't need to.
Oh, that's right. Because
I'm represent, and I make it very clear, just understand I'm representing the seller here.
Correct.
If you would like to engage into a further conversation or in a further agreement and hire me to be a client, then absolutely, I'd love that opportunity.
So someone comes in with no agent and they just find the house and they don't have an agent. You're not getting your 6% anymore. You're getting the 3%. That's probably why people are rubbed the wrong way, right?
Well, that's one of the things. So now you're negotiating now with a buyer, right?
Yeah, to say, hey, I'll represent you, or you may choose to go with no representation.
Well, exactly. However, most agents will still charge a fee because you're doing the work for both sides.
Right, exactly.
Right. So regardless, I understand you found that we didn't go through the pain and suffering of going and looking at 20 houses.
Correct.
So that's off the table. I'm really a transaction manager at this point.
Right.
How we deal with it is that I still represent the seller as a client.
Yeah.
And I represent the buyer as a customer, meaning that we're just working through the transaction for them. If they want to be a client and have further depth of representation in the transaction, we'll find another agent to represent them.
Right.
But it is a big conflict of interest, my opinion, to be a dual agent.
Yeah.
Those are very, very special circumstances that you can comfortably and ethically be a dual agent, in my opinion. And they exist out there. If people all know each other and, maybe it's an investment transaction where everybody's very knowledgeable about the industry, you can do that. But if you have 2 separate parties that don't do real estate
every day,
every single day, dual agency's just a conflict to me. So we'll either do a client on the listing side and customer on the buy side, or we'll find another agent to represent the buyer.
I asked you about buying. Let's switch to selling.
Yes.
So I'm selling my house. What suggestions do you have for me?
Sellers. Couple different things. Condition matters more than we've seen in quite a few years.
So maybe remodel the kitchen?
Yes. If you are looking for top dollar and you're looking to get as much money out of the property as you can, which is most sellers trying to get as much money as you can in a time frame that works for them.
But what I always ask in this situation is if the kitchen costs $50,000, am I going to get at least $50,000 more for the house?
Here's the difference. If you don't renovate, no one's coming. I shouldn't say no one. That's an absolute.
Yeah.
Your buyer pool shrinks way down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I look at houses all the time. There's a couple of houses not too far from me now that are really cool locations.
Yes.
And the inside has not been touched since 1972.
Mhm.
And it pains me to think about gutting that place and rebuilding that place. And so then you keep scrolling. But if it had already been done.
I will give you a case in point. This is a great example. I had a buyer this last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We went into a Marietta subdivision, and there was 2 houses. One of them looked like I was walking into 1999.
Right.
The other one had been updated.
Yeah.
The price different wasn't all that much different. Obviously, the one that had been updated was more expensive. We're talking about $750,000 homes.
Okay.
And it was a no-brainer for them. Not from a cost standpoint, but she was like, no way am I dealing with the old house.
Yeah.
I want the new house. So the buyer pool is much larger. You're marketing towards a buyer pool, and you're trying to market towards as many possible buyers as you possibly can.
You're not saying it's about more money you get. It's about actually selling the house or not selling the house.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not a return on investment decision. I get that. I understand that.
Right.
But you got to make it a marketable product.
Right.
Try and sell a car with no wheels.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
I mean, you can find someone, but but yeah, you put brand new tires on that and nice new wheels, and bam, there's a lot more interest in that car.
Yeah.
I don't know if that analogy works.
I would just
or not,
say, I would always tell people just maintain your home. It's so funny. We got a new driveway a few years. It's been many years ago now, and we painted the house at the same time. And then I think later that year, I ended up having to replace the roof.
Yeah.
And someone came walking by the house. They said, "Are you guys moving?" I'm like, no, I'm not moving. I'm just taking care of my property. But why does everyone think that? You get a new driveway, you put some paint out. Oh, they must be moving.
Yeah.
Why would you want your house to be the nicest ever right before you sell it?
Yeah. Well, it's a cost thing.
I've never understood that. But yeah, cost aside, I'm just saying.
Yes. Yeah. So
Take care of your
sellers,
house.
sellers, have a well-maintained house.
Yeah.
Do the updates to attract the largest pool of buyers.
Right.
Buyers are very cash poor. So you don't want to have a home in which someone is looking at and says, wow, I'm going to have to throw another 50 grand into this thing immediately when I buy it.
Right.
That'll scare them away.
Okay.
So once again, you're marketing towards that largest pool of buyers. So that's number one. Number two is make sure an agent that you are hiring is up to speed with all the cool new digital marketing avenues.
Okay.
This market is changing. The way that we market properties is drastically changing.
It's not flyers in a box anymore.
It's not flyers in a box.
No one cares about flyers in a box.
Or on the kitchen table or anything like that. No one picks them up any longer. It's all digital. Social media, YouTube, walkthrough videos, all the lights and cameras and all the cool stuff. That's what you got to do. Yeah. So if you're hiring an agent to sell your home, make sure they are up to speed and can show you what they are doing online. It's very digital based marketing nowadays.
Speaking of pools,
yes,
you've added a pool to your place, and I understand your grilling videos have gone viral.
Yeah, Blackstone.
Who would have thought? You're
craziest. So here's the aha. Here's the thing. My daughter did that, right?
Yes,
and I thought I was making fun of her.
Right.
I'm a content guy. I'm obviously very number driven.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Appraiser turned real estate agent.
Exactly.
Very more driven than some. Yes.
Yes, very much so. So I'm always like, I want to bring value. I want to share my updates and this and that and what's going on in the market and that.
Right.
And my daughter was like, Dad, people don't, when you're doing social media stuff, they just want to know who you are and what you do. And I'm like, whatever.
Exactly.
So we got a new yes, we have a pool.
Yep.
Blackstone. We got all these grills. So yeah, she goes, let me do a video of you doing this grilling. And I was like, oh, whatever. And she put some cool music to it and did all the social media things. Yeah, that thing took off. I think it's up to, immediately it was 35,000 views or something on Instagram. The most highest rated.
The realtor guy that does
video
grilling. Phone started probably ringing off the hook.
Now, is anybody calling me to list their house off of that video? Probably not. But listen,
you don't know that.
Exactly. It's an indirect marketing thing. Right. People get to know who you are, and they see you every single day on their phone. So,
have you seen the increase in raw land purchases?
Depending on where you're at, not in the metro. There's no land. And if there is land,
I know. I'll look for it.
Crazy expensive. I touched on that earlier about, let's look at Cobb County, right?
You remember that out in Powder Springs? I asked you to show me this little mini farm.
Yes,
because my daughter rides horses. Yes. We're up to 5 horses now.
Wow.
And now 2 are not ours. They lease a stall from us, right? But I leased the land that all the stuff is on, and I did the lease long enough to get her through high school, because boarding at these barns, because the barns are going away, because people can sell the land for a lot more than you're getting. Horse boarding is not a lucrative investment. Exactly. So they're charging $1,300 to $1,500 a month for horse board.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it's cheaper if you could find it, which I was lucky and I did. So, but I'm still looking for like that 5 or 10 acres. But anyway, you took me out to see that house.
Yeah.
Well, one of our electricians. So we were in an old office building downtown Marietta, and we have little things that happen all the time. So we have an electrician that comes by here rather frequently and fixes things. And anyway, long story short, I was looking at his social media. Remember that big, beautiful field?
Yes.
He just built a house on top of it.
Did he really?
They ended up subdividing all that out, and he built a house on top of that hill. And I told him, I said, I came really close to making that a mini farm, but I said, I knew that as soon as I did it, my daughter would go to University of Kentucky and never come home. Yeah. I was like, I was too scared to pull it off in the end. And, the other little minor things that we were concerned about, that front.
Well, is the original home still there? The
original home is still there.
Okay.
But they just subdivided it out to different plots. And so he bought a plot and built a house. So,
well, there you go.
I mean, are you seeing, a lot of stuff you're doing is up in north, Cherokee County, right?
Yeah. A lot Cherokee. Well, yeah.
There's still some land up there.
Yeah, there is. It's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
There's no cheap land any longer unless you get way out.
You have to go up to White.
Rome.
Jackson,
White, you can still find some deals up in the Rome area, but we're going to Rome.
Going to Rome. I know. I mean, like literally a different city.
Yes.
I can't imagine. Well, that 411 runs up there. It'd be interesting to see early in the morning how many cars are coming south. Probably not that many.
Probably not. I can't imagine. Yeah. However, if you go up like 575 corridor right through the heart of Cherokee, it's busy.
It is busy.
It is.
It's essentially at some point it's going to be wall to wall all the way to LJ.
It will be.
Which is sad.
And the same thing up 75 corridor, same exact thing. So you've got those 2 big corridors that are just booming. So
you're seeing that
land
in that area. You're seeing land purchases and homes being built.
Yeah. I mean, they're more. They're developers.
Okay.
Depending on what county we're talking about, I've actually got an agent in our office that is a developer, and they just he's got 2 $1.5 million spec houses that are going into a plot of land that he bought. He subdivided it out, put a single road subdivision in, and he's plopping them in.
Yeah, but those aren't individual.
Yeah. So you're seeing that kind of development, but from a individual standpoint, hey, I want to go find 5 acres and build a house on it and have it. Yeah. That's hard. It's hard because you're competing with some of the developers. Yeah. You're competing against a lot.
Right.
You have so many roadblocks in front of you. So unless you go way out, land purchases are hard. You get into Cobb County and good luck.
Yeah.
No, you need to know somebody. You need to go knock on someone's door.
There are some areas, I'll just say, there are some areas that have more higher crime that I've seen land that's fairly cheap, but I don't know why you would do that to yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's some opportunity if you think there's upside probably in some areas, but you're gonna have to deal with some stuff.
Yeah.
Before it turns around, if it ever does. Last question, I guess, if we're staying in our homes, because we don't want an interest rate, what are some of the biggest things we can do to increase our home value?
Maintenance.
Yeah, just maintaining it.
Maintaining it. Here's the direct effect that you have on it is maintain your home. Continue to update it. get it to, modernize it.
Yeah.
We have a lot of subdivisions that were built in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Some weird layouts and designs.
Yeah. And understand that, open concept is a thing now. And some of those floor plans just are not going to be open concept, but overall condition of your property is going to be key. And then outside of that is really get involved with your HOA, find out what's going on. I know a lot of people don't. However, we're seeing a lot, we haven't talked about rents and rentals and institutional buyers yet. And we are seeing more and more institutional buyers is a real thing. They are capturing and they're capturing market share here.
So maybe you need to pressure your HOA to have a no rental.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it brings down the value overall in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It just does. Stats. Those are stats.
Yeah.
So
what about Airbnbs?
Same thing, depending on what pocket you're in. I know Jasper at one time was pushing back on that. And then the business owners, the restaurant owners were like, we like tourists.
Right.
We like this weekend traffic. Please don't do that. But yeah, you've got kind of the same concept with the Airbnbs in certain areas. We see a lot of Airbnbs in Woodstock because people like to go down and enjoy themselves, or like a Roswell or Alpharetta area. They like to go on the weekends.
I just figured it'd be family coming into town, that kind of thing. Don't want to stay at a hotel, but yeah, I guess that makes sense.
The other thing we're seeing are midterm rentals. Those people that are in transition, they sold the house, and their new house that they're building, because they can't find a resale, isn't going to be finished for another 3 months. So they need a 3-month rental.
Yeah.
So that midterm rental, that's gotten to be pretty popular as well.
Yeah. But you don't want that in your neighborhood. That's what you're saying.
You don't want that in your neighborhood. Getting back to what can you do as a seller is, get involved locally to find out what's going on specifically in your neighborhood. And if you are seeing a lot of rentals and you're concerned with that, then get involved.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to pass some new rules and regulations that put limits on those, if that is a concern.
If you start seeing that trend in your neighborhood, would that be a good time to sell?
Yeah, if you don't want to deal with it.
I mean, I know that's very local and very specific to individual people, but if that's the case, because there's a lot of, especially in Marietta, there's a lot of neighborhoods that don't have HOAs, right?
Sure.
So you're just, if someone paint their house pink with, bright blue shutters, they can do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's where, you just have to be aware.
Yeah, you have to be aware. And some people don't like HOAs because of that reason. They don't want to be told what to do with their property. And I get that.
Right.
That's a personal decision that you have to make. But I would continue to watch and see how institutional buyers are affecting your local market. I guess that's the best way that I can put it.
Is there a website that would be easily tell you?
I wish there were.
You literally just have to go to the county deed records house by house.
Or call your local real estate agent that knows what's going on in the local area.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
And they'll be more than happy to talk to you about that.
Do you know anybody?
That's what we do.
How do we find you, Tom?
Listen, I'm all over the place. You can go to my website, which is townrg.com. And then from there, you can get to all my different social media sites. Or just Google Tom Townsend, real estate agent, Atlanta, Georgia. I'll pop up all over the place. So that's the easiest way to get in contact with me, is just either Google my name or go to our website.
Okay.
townrg.com.
Thank you, Tom.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was great.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Do you have any other questions or want to meet with one of our fiduciary financial advisors? You can go to wiserinvestor.com, or you can Google Tom Townsend if you have real estate questions or maybe want to sell or buy a home in this area. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys again next week.